All right, Joe. Welcome to City Logic Podcast. It's awesome to have you. Everybody, we met Joe, or I met Joe. DJ's now meeting Joe. I met Joe. Never would have thought I ever met someone through it, but eBay, actually. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into a lot of your background with Star Wars specifically. Super excited to hear more. I know we kind of... we're all over the place the day that we met and talking of all sorts of awesome topics, but we're definitely going to get into the nitty-gritty of that and catch DJ up to speed. So, Joe, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Sure thing. So, I'm just going to start it all off with having you tell everyone what exactly is peeking over your right shoulder, because I know everyone's already wondering as of right now.
That is my 501st approved TIE Fighter costume. So I've been a member of the 501st Legion since 2006. So for those who don't know, that's a worldwide fan costuming organization. And so we're the bad guys. Bad guys doing good is our slogan, because the real reason we do it is for charity. So we do all sorts of charity events and hospital visits, and 501stlegion.com is a great place for everybody to go and check us out. Always looking for new members. So I'm a member of Garrison Tyrannus, which is the Virginia garrison. And we have several squads in Virginia. And I'm a member of the Richmond squad. And so that is my only official costume. But as Cody, as you saw, I also have a Ruby's Darth Vader, which I never brought up to spec for 501st acceptance, and a Clone Trooper, which I was also working on that I never quite finished. So this is my trooping outfit.
Which is super, super awesome. I know when we met that day and I came over to your house there and I kind of turned the corner, you kind of started showing me your collection. I turn and I see this full-on Darth Vader and TIE Fighter pilot just kind of sitting there in the corner like, wow. It kind of freaked me out at first, but like, that's also like super awesome. That's an epic Star Wars man cave piece, if you will. And I was not expecting that. So awesome background introduction. And you know, why the TIE Fighter? Everybody wants to be a different clone or a stormtrooper. Why the TIE Fighter?
Well, back in 2006, there wasn't as many characters as there are now. And so the TIE Fighter was a really good starting point for a lot of people, because it can do double duty for a couple different costumes. Like I have an Imperial cap, so I can be an off-duty TIE pilot, or with a couple, take all the armor off and everything, and I can be, an Imperial officer off-duty. And then I also have a gunner helmet that's up on my shelf up there, and a gunner vest. And so just by taking the armor off, putting the vest on and the gunner helmet, now you're a gunner. So
now,
it has a lot of utility.
Did you have to buy that costume, or did you make it?
It's a little bit of both. When you hook up with the 501st Legion, there's people who are able to make the armor. We don't sell to the public. So the people who do make the armor, we really sell through the 501st Legion to other members at cost to make sure that everybody gets a chance to participate. That said, things aren't cheap, right? Because there's a lot of effort that goes into vacuum forming this armor in terms of materials and so on and so forth. I actually made the belts. Belts are made from Tandy leather. I don't know if you've ever been to a Tandy leather shop, but they have the blank belts and blank buckles, and those are the exact same ones that they used in the original movies.
Wow.
And then one of our fellow 501st members, known as Elvis Trooper, out in Las Vegas, he actually machines the little discs that go on the belt buckle, and also the ones that go on the side of the TIE Fighter pilot helmet.
That's awesome.
And so, I used to make a whole bunch of belts and sold them all over the world. So there's a bunch of people out there wearing my belts.
That's super awesome. So I know you kind of told me a couple of different accounts that you've had, participating in some of the 501st events, birthday parties and charities and so on and so forth. And tell us, maybe one of your like all-time favorites, whether it's in Richmond or somewhere elsewhere. I know you said you had a little bit of experience with like the birthday party realm, like a big group. Like what was probably your favorite time that you got to put on the to be able to suit up for someone?
Yeah, well, never been a fan of the birthday parties, to be honest. Not really my favorite thing to do. We did do one birthday party one time, and the kids just beat us up with lightsabers, and they want to press every button on your costume. And I was like, no more birthday parties. And since we do everything for charity, we don't just do birthday parties just because, the parents of whoever's having the birthday are donating to charity in our name. But my favorite troop was probably Toys R Us in Midlothian. It was my second troop. My first was Midlothian Days Parade, which was a lot of fun. But when I did the Toys for Tots, there was a really good showing of Rebel Legion. They're a sister group. They're the good guys. And so I wore my TIE Fighter pilot, and it was just great. They opened up the doors, and kids just rushed in, and kids are asking for your autograph. I'm signing it TI9944. That's my TI number. You just felt like a rock star. It was great, and we collected so many toys for charity that year. So that was one of the best ones. And one of the coolest ones, we do one, Udvar Hazy Museum up in Northern Virginia. They do a big Halloween event there with like 10,000 people that come, and so you got all the planes and space stuff there. It's really cool.
Awesome. Well, I know.
So
oh no, I'm sorry. You can go ahead.
I was just gonna say we always get a photo in front of the space shuttle there.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. Now, I know with COVID and everything, and I know we didn't really get too much into it. How much you guys have done, I assume not as much in the last year's time or so. But moving forward, everything's looking positive. We got the vaccines rolling out. Have you guys, as a troop, started to talk about any potential events coming up, or when COVID does kind of start to seize its way through? Or do you have anything planned, or at least preliminary plans?
Yeah, there have been a few troops that have been kind of like drive-by troops, or stand in the street for something that's happening. I have not participated in any in the last year, so to stay active in the 501st, you have to troop at least once a year. But they did waive that for last year with COVID, just because there really weren't a lot of opportunities. So I think as we're in 2021 now and things are looking like they're on the upswing, there's going to be more and more things. I haven't checked the forums and taken a look, but I have seen a couple Facebook posts about some upcoming things, and I'm going to have to start checking them out and see what I want to attend.
That's awesome.
So, Joe, kind of going back, what is kind of the history of the 501st? Like, how long has this been around? How hard is it to get into it if people were interested?
Yeah, I'm not good with dates, so when the 501st was formed, I'd have to look that one up, but it was made, I think there was two gentlemen. One of them was Albin Johnson, who made a stormtrooper outfit, and just wanted to start this costuming group, and somehow became this charity costuming group. And then Lucasfilm kind of noticed us because we were obviously using the intellectual property, but they liked our stuff. So we actually have a gentleman's agreement with Lucasfilm, and they use us for a lot of their events. So we are their go-to people. In fact, in The Mandalorian, when what was that, the end of season 1?
Yep, with all the stormtroopers, right?
Yep. A lot of those were 501st people from California. The California guys get all the fun because that's where things film.
Did they use their own costumes, or were they provided official costumes?
No, they use their own costumes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think
that's a testament to the quality of the costumes.
Yes, well, you have to have a movie quality costume, and your costume gets submitted and has to be approved. And so, if something's not quite right, let you know. You go back, you fix it, and then you get approved, hopefully.
I think that was actually something I picked up from the Gallery docuseries on Disney Plus. I think it was actually Jon Favreau had like a lot of the producers on this one bit of one of the episodes, and had to do with all the offhand actors, and were the big ones like Pascal and Carano and all the rest. But was how a lot of these guys were ecstatic to be a part of Star Wars. They always did you guys with the troop and doing these events and charity Star Celebration and so on, and parades. And they were like, wait, I actually get to go in Star Wars? And then Jon Favreau went up to a couple of them and was like, you guys realize now that your homemade suits are not only Star Wars grade, not only they're TV grade and movie grade, but they're worth a whole lot more because they now have screen time. And they were all kind of freaking out, and it was such a cool thing to really take in and see on that show. I don't know if you've watched it. I think Joe and I were chatting about it, but definitely definitely really, really cool. So maybe if they ever film on the East Coast somewhere, or they need like, hundreds of troops, they'll call you guys up.
Yeah, and rumor has it they didn't know what they were going to, right? Because when Lucasfilm calls you up, people go. And I don't know if this is true or not. I haven't spoken to anybody who was there, but rumor has it that they didn't know they were going to be on The Mandalorian until they got there. And can you imagine that feeling?
That's amazing.
That is so, so cool. Awesome. So, Joe, obviously you're in the 501st, which is very, very, a unique, I guess, almost family to be a part of. I mean, I just remember hearing about like the 501st, being a fan. Obviously, when it came to episode 2, episode 3, the clones were birthed, and then the older you got, you kind of learned that there was more to it. Hence the troop and everything. Now, when it comes to Star Celebration, how much do they really idolize you guys? Do they use you guys for any sort of like shows or for events or like fan autographs? Like when it comes to, because I know that also probably helped put you guys more on the map. Especially since it was only started with 2 guys. Like, so how does that play into with Star Wars Celebration and local like bigger Comic-Cons and stuff?
I don't know what official capacity they have, but obviously there's a lot of 501st people who attend those conventions. Things like Dragon Con also, they have that huge Dragon Con parade, and you'll see hundreds of 501st people lining up for that, and that's really impressive to see. When I wish I had a photo to share, but they do a big photo shoot where everybody in the 501st gets into this main gallery, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of people, lines of stormtroopers and Darth Raiders and Emperors in the front, and everything you can imagine, and it's such an amazing feeling. I just recently I was going through some old photos, and I saw a photo of me when I'm standing in that crowd when I attended Celebration 3, and I'm like looking up at something up in the bleachers up there, and I was like, I don't know what I was thinking about, but that's kind of a cool photo. Just surrounded by Star Wars.
Well, if you happen to find them, definitely please do share. Maybe we can throw them up on the screen here in the final post-production here. And I'd just love to see some of the original Star Wars Celebrations, because I didn't really realize how accidental Star Wars Celebration happened. I think I was telling you I read the Anthony McDaniel book about how he came to C-3PO, and all the way up till episode 9, and part of that was I'm slipping on the year that it was, but I know it was the same time as Columbine because it happened in Colorado, like just like down the street from the school, and they actually were going to cancel it, but they're like, no, this town, the state, the country needs Star Wars. They need something to kind of clear the mind, like clear the pain. And sure enough, they had records showing. Annie said that he was one of the few main actors that even went. It was outside. It was pouring down rain, and the turnout was insanity. To the fire marshal's like, you guys, like, no, we can't let any more people in. He said, it was almost like accidental, to where next thing you know, each year just grew, and they needed a bigger venue, and the next thing they went inside, and then it's to where it is now today. Fortunately, I've never got to go. I know you said you've been to a lot, but I just thought that was a really interesting, kind of backstory and how it was formed just by accident. So with plugging into Star Wars Celebration, I know you mentioned you've attended, quite a few different times. Tell us about that experience, because I'm really, really uncertain, how it plays out. Is a couple of days, is it an all day thing?
I was actually only lucky enough to attend one, which was Star Wars Celebration 3, I believe it was, out in Los Angeles. So I was at the Los Angeles Convention Center. So, the first challenge is, how do you get your costume out there, right? Mm-hmm. So you need a whole piece of luggage just for your costume. So I had my regular luggage and I had my costume luggage. And I get to the hotel and I open up my costume luggage, and all my little shoulder pieces are smashed. Oh. So any good 501st person has a repair kit, though. You got your super glue, you got your hot glue gun, and all that other stuff. So I'm still missing, I think, one of the screws on the back because I never found it and I never replaced it. So that was the beginning of my Star Wars Celebration adventure. But it's just wonderful to be surrounded by so many like-minded people who just love Star Wars, from little kids to, older people, and just so many 501st people there. So it's just an extravaganza of Star Wars. So I actually volunteered not with the 501st. I dressed up and walked around in my costume and it's really great. You meet people from all over the world with Star Wars Celebration too. I had somebody, I think from the Philippines, give me like a Darth Vader Imperial, paper bill,
Wow.
just like out of the blue. It's like one of my prized possessions now. It was really cool.
That is.
And I volunteered with what was it called? The autograph company, not Celebrity Picks. It's totally skipping my mind right now, but they organize all the autographs for all the stars, and so you get to sit with somebody, and while they're signing autographs, you like line people up and take their money and so on and so forth. So that was a great experience because I got to talk to the guy who was in the back of the snow speeder in the Hoth scenes. He was the guy I was assigned to, and but you get to see everybody because you're right there, so you get to see all the stars, and Ray Park, bumps into me on his way to the bathroom, that kind of thing. Chatted with David Prowse. We were helping him get set up. Yep.
That's awesome.
So it was neat to just be around everybody who was there, making these films way back when.
That's awesome.
Now, I apologize for my mispronunciation of terminology here, but how large is the Richmond Squadron?
Garrison.
Garrison.
That's a very good question. I haven't really kept up this last year, but I mean, we have to be maybe 50 some odd people. I hope nobody from the garrison's going to watch this, though. Be like, oh, know the numbers, kick them out.
Now,
yeah, I'll have to look it up. Actually, that's a good question.
on a normal,
there's new people joining all the time, so it's hard to keep up.
On a normal year, this past year excluded, how often do you guys get together? Is it like, do you guys have, other than your what are they called?
Like troops and
stuff? Yeah,
like
other than your troops, how often do you guys get together outside of that, if ever? Do you guys have meetings or?
Well, I haven't really been too involved outside my, 1 or 2 troops a year for the past, maybe, 5, 6, 8 years. Just stay active. A lot of the people that I originally trooped with are no longer in the 501st, or don't troop anymore for whatever reason. And so, but I do know that a lot of the local people do get together for different events, and almost after every troop, everybody will go out and go to a restaurant and hang out. So I haven't really been too much a part of that scene. I've had other things going on in life over the past, several years. But everybody's really close. So, people hang out. I have lifelong friendships. I was just thinking back, before this, I was like, well, when did I join Richmond Fan Force? And if I were first, exactly what year was that? And, I had to think about it, and I was like, oh, wow, I knew my friend Eddie. Shout out to Eddie Woodmansey, in case he sees this. He was our first Darth Vader in the region. I'm like, wow, I've known Eddie, 16 years. Just talked to him the other day. We're still friends. So, definitely a place to make some lifelong friendships.
That's awesome.
That's really awesome.
Interesting. So, with plugging where all this has come from, your original love for Star Wars was created way back when, of course. And I know we dug a little deep into how I met you was through, Star Wars collecting. And as I've been collecting, not obviously as long as you, you definitely have some very interesting stories. This definitely goes down as in, meeting someone, having on my podcast, talking for a couple hours, buying some of your collection. Like, that was an awesome experience for me. But you've had some really interesting experiences, because when I asked you that day, you said almost everything, if not everything, that was the collection that I was not just buying, but you still had, you got in store. So, yes. Run us through how your love for collecting Star Wars, or maybe just everything that you had. I know you had Star Trek and so on. When did all that start? Like, what day? What was one of the first things you bought? And then kind of catch up to speed to, where you are now.
Well, it all started when I was 10 years old. I That's when the original Star Wars came out. And of course, I was just blown away. So you had to buy some toys, and we didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't get a lot of vintage stuff. But I do still have those vintage toys that I had back then. I think it was a Millennium Falcon, X-wing, TIE Fighter, and a bunch of the original figures and a few other things. And so that was really kind of the extent of my collection for a long, long time until I was in my 20s, my early 20s. Somebody local was selling Star Wars toys, and he had a lot of nice stuff. And so I picked up an Imperial shuttle, Jabba the Hutt on his throne, and a TIE Interceptor, Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, and a bunch of other stuff. So that kind of got me back into thinking about collecting some stuff. And then after that, I probably picked up a couple things in KB and Toys R Us after that. But it really picked up when I was working in Manhattan. Right? So every day when I'd get off the train, I lived up in New York, lived in Long Island, worked in Manhattan. So I would take the train in to Manhattan every day and walk up to Times Square. So great exercise, but there happened to be a Toys R Us that was just one block down. So instead of going straight up to Times Square, I'd go one block down, stop in Toys R Us, and then go up to work. So every morning, Toys R Us, when they opened up at 8:30, I was standing outside with a bunch of other collectors. Everybody would just wait for the doors to open. The Star Wars toys were all on the third floor, so we'd all rush and jostle each other as we're going up the escalator, trying to get up there first to get all whatever the coolest stuff was that was released. And so that was when I really had the bug of just collecting and buying a lot of on carded figures and just keeping them on the card. So I did open up a lot of stuff. I had a pretty good collection at work on my desk. I was a programmer back then, so a nice programmer's desk with toys. It's perfect. And then I also got into some other things. I was thinking about that earlier too. Always a big Terminator fan, Aliens fan, so I collected a lot of that stuff as well. But even other things like Skeleton Warriors and X-Men, Spider-Man. So a lot of those things I've been selling on eBay as well. And then I just kind of decided at one point, it's like, okay, it's time for me to part with this stuff. Let somebody else enjoy it. And but I decided I wanted to keep my vintage stuff. So I'm selling a lot of my, carded stuff from, let's see, what was that, 1995, 96, the red and green cards and those things. And trying to fix some of my broken vintage things with some of those funds as well. So there's a Facebook group that I'm a part of called the Imperial Commissary, and very super knowledgeable people about everything you'd ever want to know about Star Wars toys. And so they do what's called Wanted Wednesday, when you just post things that you're looking for. Somebody has them, they reach out to you and you negotiate a good price, and definitely beats eBay pricing for a lot of these little parts and pieces and such. And so that's been my goal, is to kind of liquidate that stuff and focus on my vintage stuff and then get it nicely displayed, because for almost 2 decades, this stuff just lived in boxes. Never took it out when I moved down from New York. I just sat in a nice climate-controlled basement, sitting in boxes until just like last year, when I was just like, I got to open this up. I don't even know what I have anymore. I don't even know what's in there, which is fun, right? Because you have boxes and boxes of stuff. You're like, oh, I didn't know I had this. This is awesome. Look at that.
Then I felt like Christmas all over again.
It really did. It was an extended Christmas. So my collecting times these days is really just trying to figure out what I want to complete from the vintage side. Obviously, there's tons and tons of vintage toys out there, more than I even realized existed until I really started getting into it. So I'm probably just going to focus on a couple parts of that, and just see about getting rid of a lot of the other stuff to people who are going to give it a good home.
Awesome. Which I'm very glad to be a part of that. So,
yeah, me too. It's a great feeling as a collector to sell some things to another collector that really appreciates it, as opposed to just selling it blindly on eBay to somebody who might just go and rip it all apart and throw it out. Who knows what dog will chew it.
Now, with your experience with eBay, how often do you think it's that situation? Like, how often are you meeting someone like Cody who you can tell just by talking to him his passion for it versus the other side?
Well, nobody ever liked Cody, that's for sure. No one's ever come to my house and picked up stuff and then bought some more. So that was a great experience. There's been maybe just a handful of people. I guess I've been selling for like a year and a half now. Maybe one or two people that I really, based on the questions back and forth, that I really felt, this is a collector who really wants to cherish this.
That's awesome. Which that's definitely kind of what I've felt, because I what happened was I purchased the item that I did, which was the Luke Wampa that I showed the collector series, late '90s, and I noticed he was from Chesterfield, Virginia. I'm like, there's no way. I buy stuff from. I went on a binge there for a while. And I was getting stuff from all over the place: New York, New Hampshire, California, Washington State, you name it. And then Chesterfield, Virginia, I did not pay attention to it. And then I was like, let me see, if maybe I can, go pick it up or whatever. This is kind of cool. I've never done that before. And then next thing you know, he's like, well, I do have some more stuff I'm selling. And then just kind of, emailing back and forth. And sure enough, I bought a good bit of his collection, which he still has a ton. What's that?
Yeah, we made a good deal.
We did.
Yeah,
we did.
And I was just like, oh, I have this Han with Tauntaun, and he's like, yeah, I like that. I'm like, oh, great, I don't have to ship this giant thing.
Yeah, because I think I saw on eBay, if you were to buy those on eBay, like the average seller has it for like $50 shipping.
That's a big box too.
It is. Like, it's like $50 shipping, And
Cody was showing it off to me and his girlfriend. His girlfriend's like, where are you gonna put that?
So did that convert her to be the Star Wars fan that you needed to be?
Still working on it. Between that and my she sees my passion in it. And then we went on the movie bench there. I think we're on episode 9, not mistaken, so we're almost done. But what kind of like really did her, and she's like, she fell in love with Ewoks, right? So I got her the 1995. It's like a little Wicket stuffed, Ewok that I got for maybe $12 on eBay, and I kind of surprised her with it, and she's like, oh, it was super cool. So never would have thought that would have sealed the deal, but.
Yeah, I wish I would have known. I think I actually have that Wicket.
And that's what happened is,
it was in my big pile of 12-inch figures that we looked at for a second.
Yeah,
that's just it though. I wanted to see it all, but every time that I kept looking, I was like, I want that, and I had to stop.
Yeah, and you're like notoriously indecisive.
Yes, I'm very indecisive. But we made a good bargain. We got some good stuff. But I told him it's definitely not going to be the last transaction between the two of us. So.
Yeah, and it was fun just showing off all the stuff that I'd collected over the years, and it's like, oh, this guy actually thinks this stuff is cool. Normally I'm like showing to my girlfriend or my friends, and they're like, what? I don't understand. What'd you spend all that money for? And he's like, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, yes, it is.
It's good to know someone else feels the same way that I do, because I think that really got me into it is I'll never forget I think I told you the story the first time that I ever actually got something Star Wars related, which was I don't remember. It was 2000, the year 2000 technically. It's like 5 years old. My dad started telling me the story about like Episode 4, aka New Hope, as it was almost like a fairy tale. And I'm like, who is this Darth Vader guy? I think back to like when C-3PO was telling the story to the Ewoks in Episode 6. That's how I felt. Like I'm so like mesmerized by this magical place of Star Wars that my dad was telling me. So he's like, actually, a new movie just came out. Let's go to Toys R Us, which was that same Toys R Us in Midlothian, actually. That I remember walking and, so confused what the Star Wars was, and you see this big Star Wars sign, like, at this aisle here. I'm like, wow, that's a cool logo. 5-year-old me, I turned on the aisle, like, the whole wall is just, like, the Phantom Menace line, and they even had some of the old, like, the green and red carded for the Power of the Force line by Kenner. I mean, I was just so overwhelmed. My dad's like, all right, pick like your 5 favorite and get them. So next thing you know, obviously, I was so excited to pick, and Qui-Gon Jinn was one of my the ones that I picked, and it just started from there. And I'll never forget, like, each Christmas after that, it was just more and more and more. And I was like, you can never get enough of it. And I remember watching certain pieces of the movie just so many times. Especially like the arena scene from Attack of the Clones. It was so weird. Like I just always wanted to watch it. Me and my brother was like fast forward to that scene. But I don't know, it slowly built and built and built and built and built over the course of the years to where now that I think like you and I were chatting with, you kind of get some extra income, and you're like, I want to have something that I didn't get as a kid, but you almost get like, I'll say addicted to it a little bit. So it's a different addiction, Some people are like, why are you spending too much money on toys when you're an adult? Like it's something different. Like you have that passion for it. Everybody has their guilty pleasure, but people like you and I were not guilty about it. So.
Yeah, and then I became a real life action figure when I joined the 501st.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
Well, I think this would be a perfect time to take a quick break, and we'll share a little message from our sponsors. The sponsor for today's podcast is our very own channel, Traveling Techers. We do all sorts of content, ranging from day-to-day vlogs, gym content, collabs with other YouTube channels, and our personal favorite, traveling adventures. The footage you've been watching these last few moments is from 2019 when we backpacked Europe for 15 days. We visited a variety of attractions, ranging from the Colosseum in Rome, to the London Bridge, to Edinburgh Castle. Click the card that pops up above to watch our exciting European adventure right after this awesome podcast. You don't want to miss it. Stay classy, you fellow techers.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed those words from our sponsors.
Nice. So, let's see, what were we just chatting about before we... Oh, while we were on our commercial break, you showed us the awesome poster board get up. You're more than welcome to show it off again, so that way we'll have it on the live feed here.
So this is a present my kids gave me for Christmas one year, with a picture of the three of us with the R2D2 mailbox that was down in Carytown for a while. A Pinewood Boy Scout Pinewood Derby car that we made that was a Scout Trooper, and we were featured. This was kind of like the original crew of 501st and my friend Danny and the Rebel Legion. So the Richmond Times-Dispatch wanted to do a quick article on us, and so we were in the paper, and they had a little interview with each one of us about why we love Star Wars, and it's just such a great photo, great angle. So I'm right there. We got Dengar, Scout Trooper, Stormtrooper, Jedi, Rebel Trooper, another Stormtrooper. So it's like my favorite.
That photo.
Favorite
is
photo.
awesome.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could find that anywhere, like on a not what's the word I'm looking for, like a database of some sort, like through Richmond Times or maybe.
That photo was in the newspaper. Like that's a clip out from it.
Yep. I don't think I have. I have a copy of the whole newspaper. I don't think it has the date on here. But that was, let's see, I was age 40 then. That was a long time ago. Yeah, 12 years to be exact.
So it's probably around like 2009 maybe, if my math's correct. It could be a little off, roughly. I wonder if they have like a database where you can pull it up. I'd love to see like the actual print.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they have all that stuff.
It's a pretty epic shot there, especially like you said, on top of probably like a parking deck or something with the clouds in the background.
I love the low angle of it too. It makes you guys look like really epic.
Yeah, that's what I love about it the most. The angle is just perfect.
That's awesome.
Just very menacing.
Whoever thought to get low on that one's a genius.
Right. So before our commercial break, we were chatting obviously about your collection and like the background, the history. Just the passion behind collecting itself. But I know one of those things that can be hard is to, get rid of, sell. But like you were saying, if it's going to the hands of a collector, kind of like our exchange, it makes you feel very okay with it. And like DJ jokes, it doesn't always happen that way. But just to get rid of it in general, what does it feel like after all those years? And I know you said it sat in boxes, but like, what does it really feel like to give it off to a new home, money or not?
Actually, at this point in my life, it actually feels good. I've had the stuff for a long time. I've enjoyed it. I used to have everything that I said it was in boxes for a long time from the move, but before that, I had everything out displayed in my gaming room when I lived in New York, and so always enjoyed seeing everything. I had to start a lot of loose stuff that I still had out, and so it's kind of like that Marie Kondo simplification thing, minimizing. It feels good. It's time to let it go and let other people enjoy it. That said, not quite ready to get rid of that vintage stuff yet.
Oh, of course not.
Is there... Because I'm watching Cody collect all this, and he has all of his stuff, well, half displayed here. The other half is in his room.
It's literally all around us right now.
Everywhere.
In our gaming corner, so much.
But is there some kind of like almost like a self-conscious mindset where you're almost just holding on to this temporarily for the next person, like you're preserving this from point A to point B so that the next person can preserve it from point B to point C and pass it on from that point? Is there like some kind of a mindset like that?
I think there is, right? Because, particularly with things that are mint on card or in the box, it's being able to give somebody something that they could never walk into a Toys R Us, and I don't even think Toys R Us is around anymore, are they? But they can't walk into a toy store and find this green Power of the Force card on the shelf anymore. Like Cody, like you were talking about when you were a kid and you walk down that aisle and you just saw it packed with all the Star Wars stuff. I mean, you don't see that anymore. You get a little section in Walmart, and half the time there's nothing there anyway.
Yeah,
so
More than half.
yeah, so it's almost like passing down some part of that Star Wars history and lore to somebody new.
Because
It's kind of like Luke passing the Jedi books.
Oh yeah,
down,
Because like you're kind of as you're describing the history of your collection, from the beginning to now, you're kind of at that point where you're ready to kind of pass on the information of the Force, right? You're ready to pass on what you've collected to the next line of Jedi, being Cody, who will then do the same in the future, right? But right now, I don't know if Cody is necessarily holding on to these, thinking of it the same way, because you guys are in different points in your collection.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you even mentioned that when you were picking stuff up, like, I can't imagine selling this stuff, so I help my kids pay for college, but maybe 20 years from now, you might feel a little differently. But I think that is part of it, right? I'm sure, Ray doesn't want to give up the Jedi texts, right? But Luke was ready, Well, he probably didn't want to give him up either. Now that I think about it, but Yoda was.
The analogy falls apart.
Yoda's like, burn that stuff down.
Well, technically, when it did catch on fire, he tried to go into the temple episode, or not temple, but like the hut, the sacred hut that was in it. And then that's been the hologram of Yoda. My favorite and only good part of episode 8, but that's another topic.
Yeah, to carry that now, John, when you're walking out of his door with all of his stuff, he for a second hesitated to run after you.
that's awesome.
No, it's everything has its season, right? And so it was time. I kind of started with some of the other stuff that I wasn't really as attached to, like Skeleton Warriors. No problem, get them out the door. I had a whole bunch of those. Even Terminator. I was like, I love Terminator, but I'm not really crazy about these figures. I wasn't never really too crazy about the sculpts. So they were pretty easy to let go. What else was there? Things like that. Like I had a couple of Sequest figures. And I'm like, I don't remember Sequest. I know I watched it, but I don't have any of that attachment to it. And so that kind of got me down the path of being more comfortable, kind of letting some of this stuff go.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's DJ is right, and you both are right. We're in two totally different pieces in our life, let alone of collecting. And it's funny, any transaction I have, whether it's with you or at the Gateway Comics here in Fredericksburg or on eBay, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get rid of this. Eventually, I always say I'm going to one day, give it into good hands, whether it's like my kids or grandkids or to some other collector. But then again, I'm like, no, maybe I won't. It's weird. It's really weird. But I'm sure it'll definitely change down the road to where you're at now. So no, it's definitely smart. It's definitely smart for you to hold on to those vintage, especially like with yours. Like if you have some like your original figures, like that's even more of a fun story to tell.
These are the figures I used to play with when I was 10 years old, and so they have a lot of good memories. And I'm sure there's still a few back in the old backyard up in New York too that I lost back in the day.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I do have a funny story about one of my vintage figures, Blue Snaggletooth, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is one of the rare figures. Usually, a couple $100, $2, $3, sometimes more, depending on its condition. So I realized when I open up my Millennium Falcon that has all my figures in it, and I'm like, I didn't even remember I had a blue snaggletooth, let alone I just had discovered how much he was worth just from doing research on other things. So I'm like, this is great, but he's covered with red clay. So I used to like do things with my fingers, like, to put like masks on them and stuff, and with all this red clay. So thank goodness it very easily all washed off. I thought I had a totally ruined blue snaggletooth, and I was going to be so upset. It's like the one like really, really expensive figure that I have.
That's hilarious. Yeah, because I'm the story behind that is there's a red and a blue one, right? And the blue is the normal size of like 3.75 figures, and then the red is like half the size, like a miniature, almost like the Yoda figure, or Ewok, or what have you, and Jawa. And it was just like a misproduction. The Snaggletooth, they actually wanted to be short like the red one as well, but instead it was tall. So they quickly like canned the production of them. Same with the Jawas, with the vinyl cape to the cloth, because like the cloth right now on a carded from I think those were the 78. They're still like $200, but if you find like a vinyl in a card, it's like $10,000, which is insane.
And you're referring to one of these, right?
What?
What are you talking about? One of these guys?
Oh, like a card.
So like the people on the camera can
Oh,
see.
sorry. Yeah, I keep kind of like referencing here. So like like how we've been saying carded. It obviously means like the card or like the card back of the figure. So there's the figure inside, and obviously as a kid you take them out and play with it all you want. Like he said, you throw them in the clay and so on and so forth. But if you keep it in the card, especially a figure that's 40 plus years old, I mean that's just insanity. Let alone one in good shape. I know I've seen a fair bit at the Oddball Collectibles over there in the West End down your way. There's a couple. I mean, they have like an Ugnaught, like not a Jawa, but I think maybe like a Tusken Raider, but they're destroyed. Like they still have the original plastic, they still have the card, and so the figure's in good shape. And they have the gun, which is still a pretty decent little deal. It's gonna be worth more than just the figure because they still have it, but it's not in this good of shape. Granted, this is only like a year or so old, but if you have one in like mint condition like that, even of just like a Han Solo, it's still worth 100 or if not a couple $100. But the special ones like the Snaggletooth on a card, it's definitely over $1,000. The Jawa on a card that has like the vinyl cape, like the squishy cape, it's like $10,000-$12,000.
And that's just because they didn't make as many.
Yeah,
it's a limited supply of them.
Yep, but the most rare / valuable is the Boba Fett, which I'm sure you're familiar with this as well. Yep, the rocket firing Boba Fett, because not even like a week or two in of the production, which that Boba Fett was a special character to where if you bought, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you bought like the first like X amount of figures of that line, not the first 12, but it was like the ones after that, and you you held on to something. And you mailed it in, you got that Boba Fett in return. But, shot the missile out of its back. But, like, within the first week of them being out in production, someone wrote a letter that a kid, I don't think choked to death, but got sent to the hospital.
You gotta shoot out your eye, kid.
Exactly. A good Christmas Carol reference. It got lodged in his throat or something. So, they canned that production. So, finding one in good condition, let alone on the card, is absolutely insanity, and I think the most they ever said sold for like $50,000.
Wow,
which is pretty crazy. And now, personally,
you don't have one of those in your Millennium Falcon, do you?
No, I put it in Cody's box. I hope he found it.
I haven't found it yet, so I'll be right back. So.
Well, the blue Snaggletooth is actually interesting because I believe it only came with the Cantina set, and so and then when they corrected it. That Cantina set one became super valuable. But it's kind of interesting because they made him tall and put boots on him because they didn't have any reference photos. So if you think about it, the blue Snaggletooth's legs and his knee-high boots and silver boots, they're all just a figment of some designer's imagination who didn't know any better. So it's kind of funny.
And it is funny you say that because I think you do see like both the blue and the red, or maybe just the red or the blue. I don't remember, but I remember like going back recently and seeing like a Cantina. It is kind of like a good point. Like you never actually see his height. He's just kind of there. Like there's a lot of random figures like that. Like I know Yak Face, which who the heck is that? But he's from Jabba's sail barge in Episode 6. Before the whole Great Bit of Carcoon scene and chaos begins. But he's like in the background for maybe 5 seconds. But the special, like Power of the Force edition, like the original Power of the Force from 1985, if you find that one on its card, it's also like $15,000 or something like that. It could be a little less, but it's just because it's a random character no one really knew about. And then there's other like random line that are worth a lot of money, but the droids, the old show, the cartoon show, the droids, any figures from that, carded or not, are very, very expensive because they're very like kind of cartoony looking figures.
Yeah, I didn't even know those existed until recently. People posting them on some of the Facebook groups I'm in. I'm like, what are these droid figures and why are they so expensive? Holy cow! If I only knew now, then what I know now, I would have done a lot more shopping and kept things in boxes.
Now, do you have anything in your collection you think that you've already sold or haven't sold that through the years, either that you opened or maybe did get damaged in the move that you're like, I wish that didn't happen? Do you have anything like that, or do you think you've ever sold anything that you wish you kept the box? Or
I think I can never remember. I think it's the closed hand Tusken Raider, which is worth more than the open hand. So I had sold a couple, figures up to my cousin up in New York, and I didn't know about the Tusken Raider, so I might have put a closed hand in there when I shipped him a whole bunch. But other than that, I think the only thing that I had from damage, I didn't have anything Star Wars damaged, but I have the Alien Queen Hive from the Alien collection. And it's a really cool set. It has the queen, and it has like that thing that she lays the eggs through that's like translucent. And I was moving it around, and I put it on top of my Ewok village while I was getting to some other stuff. And it fell, and the little top hinge cracked, and I was like, that's like the one alien thing that was actually worth good money. It's probably still worth good money, but it's not pristine now, and I can't sell it as such.
Yeah, it's not one of those ones that you could probably fix. I know obviously it's not going to be in the Star Wars group, but maybe it's something you could look up and fix a little bit, or is it like too far gone from?
Oh yeah, no, it's just the hinge of the little cap. You used to pour slime into it, and then it had a little thing on the bottom, and you put your little figure under there, and you'd open it up, and the slime would come drip down on the figure like the alien slime. So it's just the top of that little cover. I can fix it with a little crazy glue, but I just hate the fact that it just broke off, and now I got to fix it.
Right. Right.
Now, other than that, I don't think I sold anything that I realized, like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Is there anything that I gave you that you looked at and was like, wait a second?
No.
Score.
No, everything was. I
was just lending that to you if it was.
I've actually taken them all out once, just because I have this like fear. Heaven forbid I don't want any of them to get damaged. I am gonna kind of go through them and like analyze them and everything. But I think I'm gonna do that pegboard trick that you and I even talked a little bit about. And I went on some like collecting forums. But I think of the pegboards like in like the toy aisle now, like where you see like the metal hooks. But these you can buy like a pack of like 100 like smaller hooks for like 100 for $8 or something like that. And you put them side by side perfectly on this like pegboard, which I know you could buy at Lowe's for like a pretty decent size, like 3 foot by 4 foot or something, maybe a little bit bigger. But you pretty much like get plots of that, and you can put them all on there. Now I wanted to buy something to where it would be like easier to move around, like being in an apartment. I'm obviously not going to stay here forever, but something that's easier to move, like build, like put them all on the pegboard. But maybe put like some sort of like covering over it, like nail it to it, and then obviously I can just like or like screw it on with a drill, then take it off whenever I want to sell it or take something out or whatever. So when I do finally start like that project and I start going through them all, if I do find one, I'll remember that. He's just lending it to me. So, but
yeah, good point. It's hard to display a good collection. Yeah, it's just. It's just hard to, where do you put things and how do you display them so you can really see them, particularly carded figures.
Yeah.
You can't just stack them up like they are in the toy store because then you can't see any of them.
Exactly. You can see the ones on the front and maybe the ones behind, but you got to really dig a look. So yeah, I've been doing all the research and definitely something that keeps the cards in good condition. That's another like fear. Heaven forbid one gets like bent or broke. It would.
Yeah, they do have the plastic cases that you can get to put the cards in. So that's the best way to to protect those if you're looking to do that.
And that's probably what I'll eventually do. I think they're called star cards, and they're you can, if you buy them in bulk, it's definitely like much cheaper. So I might eventually definitely do that route. So I'll have to figure it out. So before you started selling all your collection a year ago, how much do you truly think that you had? Either like total figures or like total, numerical value. Not for like maybe now, but like how much do you think you've put into it over the course of years?
Like count wise or money wise, I couldn't even say.
Both. I know they're both would be hard, but how many figures do you think that you had, or how much do you really think you put into it?
I probably had at my peak maybe about 500 figures, maybe. I'd say maybe less, maybe about 350. If I'm trying to remember, because you saw the batch of loose figures that I had. There has to be at least 100, 150 there. So, and I probably have a couple hundred of the carded ones that I've gotten rid of over the years.
And you definitely had a ton of the. You had your whole like Boba Fett little display there, and you had plenty more Power of the Force. You had the clones from the Star Wars Saga Celebration collection. Definitely still a phenomenal collection. You wouldn't even be able to tell that you sold a bunch because there was just so much stuff. It was honestly kind of overwhelming, honestly.
Yeah, there's still a lot. And it probably looks like more because it's so spread out, though. If I kind of consolidated it, probably wouldn't look as impressive.
You never know.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I'm really getting now. So I just fixed. I had a Jabba the Hutt on the throne. He's actually right behind this laptop right now. He had a broken arm, and so I was like, "How can I fix this broken arm?" And so I looked online, and I found a site that explained you can use a Lego piece that's got a ball joint, and you could just drill out the piece and Jabba's arm and put this piece in and super glue it and then snap it in, and now his arm moves freely again. And I was like, oh, I'm going to give that a try, and it worked great. And so then I was just I needed the clamp that goes around Silicious Crumb's neck to kind of keep him with the throne. And so I had to buy a baggie that had Jabba's pipe and his little hookah thing, just to get that little clamp. But it was only like $12, so that wasn't too bad. But there were a couple pieces that I need to get, like X-wing canopies. I had 2 X-wings that didn't have canopies, and so to get the original canopies, a lot of people are trying to sell the battle damaged ones, which were a little bit later. They're the darker canopy. But to get the original canopies, they're like $50 a pop.
Wow.
So it's kind of weird. I just spent $100 on these 2 tiny little pieces of plastic. I'm like crazy. But then when I look at my completed X-wing, I'm like, okay, that was worth it. Same thing with the chin guns for the AT-AT, the AT-AT, however you want to pronounce it. They were like $50 each. So.
Wow.
But again, when you have that beautiful piece complete, it raises the value a lot, and it just looks great.
Oh, 100%. Like, I know you had 2 Millennium Falcons. You have, like, your original, those on your shelf, like, in the room that you're in now, and then you had the other one in the basement. You said you were either fixing up or you're going to, fix up, and I was like, well, those things go. Even damaged with no box. The original, one of the original Millennium Falcons, because they had one, like, every other year for, like, the first couple of years, but any of them, let alone the 1978 one, I think the cheapest I've seen one sell for was like $300, but it's because like it was missing almost like every piece, and it was partially damaged. And
people are probably buying that for parts.
Oh yeah, or they'll just buy the parts separately, because some of them will go $600, $700, $800, especially like a pristine condition with the box. I don't even know the average price.
Yeah, if you got the box. Yeah, that shoots up the price a lot. My childhood Falcon was complete except for the ramp struts. So I bought those, I think, for $30 for the 2 of them, I think, which wasn't a bad deal.
No.
So now that's complete. Yeah. But a lot of people are missing a little training ball in the back.
Oh, yeah.
So luckily mine had that. But I am looking at fixing up that other Falcon and selling that one. I actually just picked up one that was really, really dirty and beat up and broken from Craigslist actually, and but I got it for $17 just to get the glass canopy, because it still had the glass canopy, and the one that I had has a broken glass canopy. So it was actually cheaper to buy that than it is to go on eBay and buy this glass canopy by itself.
Do you consider repairs a whole separate hobby from just collecting? Something that you can kind of continue to do, even though you're not necessarily wanting to build a collection, and now you can kind of look for something that it's like a project that you can kind of buy, you know, a broken piece, knowing that you're going to repair it over the course of however long, and then turn it and give it to somebody else who will take care of it.
It's funny you say that, because I'm a project guy. I love projects. Like, one of my other things is I buy old broken Ataris, or Ataris that don't work. Sometimes they're actually broken, but a lot of times they just need a really good cleaning. And maybe chip replacement or capacitor replacement. So that's one of my other hobbies, where I'll get these old Ataris, I'll clean them up, see if they work okay, replace the capacitors. Sometimes I'll put a video upgrade in so they work with composite video. So I love projects like that. So this vintage Star Wars fixing thing really appeals to me. Like, I thought it was the coolest thing when I fixed Jabba's arm. Like, when I sell him, of course, I'll have to reveal that he has a fixed arm. So technically he's not 100% vintage, but he looks great. He's in great shape now, and he's complete. So that makes me happy.
That's awesome.
So is there anything that you're specifically looking for your vintage collection? Because I do know, he did have more until I bought them, but the Gateway Comics, up here in Fredericksburg, they have a huge vintage selection, and with his new store open now, the couple times I've gone in there, he's like added more to it, because he just has so much stuff in warehouses and stuff. He's like finally compiling in this like mega store. So if there's any like characters specifically that you're looking for, let me know, or maybe even just for parts, because he has a full glass case of them. Keeps them all in like the plastic boxes. They're all like clean. He has ships. I bought, actually, I don't know if I maybe had mentioned to, I think I got it after I bought the stuff from you, but I picked up the original Slave 1 complete from the store. I think it's missing like a sticker or two, but it has the cockpit panel. It has the side panel where you take off to put the Han Solo carbonite in, which came with that. The guns still move and the wings still move, so it's pretty cool piece. But he has I think he has almost every ship. He has the AT-AT Walker. He has everyone besides the Millennium Falcon. He does not have the Millennium Falcon. I was been looking to see if he would get that in his collection, but he has a huge selection. So if there's anything you're ever looking for.
I need to get up there one of these days and check it out. I'll let you know when I'm heading up that way.
For sure. And I haven't.
I have that. I was just going to say, I have that same Slave 1 ship complete. It have a small crack in the canopy window, so I'll probably replace that at some point. But overall, in terms of what am I looking for next, I think I just want to get a few beat-up TIE fighter pilots that are just going to sit inside my TIE fighters, because every ship should have a pilot. I already got my Luke pilots for my X-wing, so I'm good there. And then I got to start thinking, what's next? What other piece do I need to fix up? I haven't really thought about what's next after Jabba.
That's awesome.
Well, I'll definitely be on the lookout, because I know I got one off eBay recently, but they're definitely hard to come by. I remember you and I were talking about that. The TIE fighter pilots are hard to come by.
It's interesting, because even in the Facebook groups where people sell tons of stuff, I never see any TIE fighter pilots. So I don't know if they were just people love them and they keep them, or were they rare? I don't know. I got to ask that question.
It's funny you say that, because
just never seen them come up.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. I recently got a couple books off of eBay. One of them was like the original Beckett collector book that my dad got for me or for my family when we were at like an antique show when I was little, and I got another copy of it, but it came with this other book from I think 2002. It was right after the Attack of the Clones line came in, because that's like the newest piece in there. But this book had value of not just figures, but like lunch boxes, and I just got it recently, so I've only read like the first couple pages, but it gives like a history of like all the stuff. It shows you like the prices then, and granted it was made in 2002, so here we are 19 years later. A lot of those values have gone up, but it's still cool to see what they were worth 20 plus years ago. And there's so much more memorabilia and collecting or collector items that beside just figures. I mean, they had T-shirts. I haven't even looked through really much of any of it, but it's a pretty extensive book. So I don't know. I have to look more into the history behind the TIE Fighter pilot. I do know some of the specific figures. When I was getting to, is it kind of tells you like which ones came in which collection. That's kind of where I learned more about the specific Boba Fett, where it was like a after production, like, hey, if you get buy X amount of figures and you send the cards in, because they just wanted you to buy, or Kenner really wanted you to just buy more up. So like, oh, if you buy these 5, you can get a 6th one, but if you only buy 4, no. So it had to do with that.
They still do that today, in a sense, not Kenner, but like you see the X-Men figures that have like the one piece of the other big figure. So you got to buy, whatever 8 figures to put that one figure together with all the pieces. So it's that same concept.
They do that with like Marvel too. I see a lot of Marvel ones like that.
Let's say that the comic store here in Fredericksburg has a huge Marvel collection. I think
feel like it's always Hulk.
Yeah, right. Oh,
they're always building the Hulk.
Yeah, something big like that, the Hulk or the Abomination.
Or like the Iron Man suit from
Hulkbuster.
Yeah, Hulkbuster, that's it.
Yeah, everything is big like that.
It's awesome.
So what's your prized collection piece, Cody? What's the thing that you're like, I'm never parting with this, even if my kids have to go to college?
Man, that's a hard one.
Sorry, Junior, you're going to community college for a couple of years.
You can go to John Tyler Community College there in Midlothian. That's about all you're gonna get.
It's got to be one of your C-3PO things, right?
Surely, I think I told him a little bit about. I love C-3PO. I don't know why. Weirdly enough, it might be. I mean, I can sit here and say I'm sentimental with one of my original figures. Like, I actually have those in a box, like in my room. That, like, I'll eventually display them one day when I am able to. But it might be those 2 lunchboxes up there. So I have the original 1977 and 1980 10 lunchboxes. I have I lied. I have the 1980, 1983. I have Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, with the original thermos cup. And I remember finding them like really randomly at that antique store there in Richmond because they weren't with the Star Wars stuff, which I thought was like really weird. Granted, I would say 2/3 of the store are like booth related products, so like you can put your little booth in there and sell different stuff in your collection. Or I know there's like arts and crafts and whatnot. So I actually found both of them there at 2 different times. So I know those go for a pretty penny. Now mine are nowhere near mint, but they're also not crazy damaged. I mean, it's definitely like chipped paint and what have you, but for being a 40-plus-year-old lunchbox, it's in pretty cool shape. So I would say those were a pretty cool find. I don't know if I'll ever really get rid of those. It's going to be hard to kind of preserve and keep those in good condition. I'm going to do my best to. So I mean, I can definitely say a lot of my C-3PO stuff, even if it only is worth like $15, just because I don't know. C-3PO is one of my favorite characters, but I think the real valuable pieces, and the lunchboxes are actually worth a pretty penny. They can go for even over $100 a piece in the condition I have them in a piece. But I would say probably my Kenner collection, like the original figures, because I would say I have 3/4 of the original collection from 1977 there, or 78 when they officially dropped to. I think 84 was the last year they produced like an original Kenner. So I'm still going to work on getting their guns, and I think I'm missing like a cape or 2 on a figure, a few. So I think as a whole, one day I want to eventually set them all up like on a stand together, and I think that in bulk, the lump sum of those, I will probably never part with. So.
Well, I would sell you my first 12 stand, but as you saw, it had that big melt in the front. I don't know what happened to that. That was one of the things I got from that collection that I bought. So
I know. I actually saw that on eBay one time. But you can never find them in perfect condition, so don't feel bad because they're really hard to come by. Basically, it's like a stand. It has like the names
for the original one.
Yeah, that's like a little
yeah,
backdrop.
the original 12.
It's I should. Shame on me. I don't think I know all the original 12, just because it's like a random. It's a
Well,
random
let's see.
selection.
It's I got it right there. Stormtrooper Jawa, Death Star Commander, C-3PO, Darth Vader, Ben Kenobi, Sand People, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Chewbacca, Princess Leia, and R2-D2.
Such
So,
a cool, unique lineup.
Yeah,
And I think I
Is that-
have.
there's some heavy hitters.
They are. There really is.
and this was back in the day when R2-D2 was spelled out, and C-3PO was actually spelled out instead of
Really?
4 characters each. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was even a thing.
Yeah, like C3PO, I think is the CEE, and then 3PIO.
How they spell out R2D2?
It's ARTOODETOO.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's so cool.
I'll send you a picture of my stand later.
No, definitely do that, because I definitely would love to get one. I have all original with 12. Now, I will say I don't have the original telescoping Luke figure, because those are basically like the little plastic lightsaber that would come in and out of their arm or whatever.
Yeah, my Luke is missing his lightsaber. My Ben Kenobi has his lightsaber, but it's missing the tip.
Which I do know they're really fragile. It's kind of like where if you look at it, it looks like it's supposed to be all one piece, but like the bottom half of it is like skinnier, and they just call it a double telescope. I don't really necessarily know why. I think it's just because it expands almost like a telescope does. It kind of comes back in.
Is it like the larger ones that you used to play with as kids?
Except these would like come out of their arm,
But they're little ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's definitely like an interesting concept in how they designed them. I guess just because like the technology was new, but those were like the first ones to where they're obviously much more rare. But if you have one of those in a card back, whew, those are definitely worth a pretty penny.
Yeah. Now, have you watched that Netflix series, The Toys That Made Us?
I have. They have
Yeah, because they had that Star Wars one, and that was great.
They had a very good
There's
episode.
the history.
I might rewatch that at some point, because I feel like I watched it. It came out a couple of years ago, and I mean I was definitely engaged, but I'm kind of a little fuzzy on my information. There's definitely about like all the background with Kenner and how it was created, let alone how they obtained Star Wars, which was definitely unique, because they were an underdog in the toy industry, and it was almost like all accidental, kind of like fell in their lap. And
nobody wanted to do the line.
Yep,
They thought it was going to be a flop.
yep, they thought Star Wars was going to be a flop, which is kind of funny, because Anthony talks about it in the biography that he writes, obviously, about how even he thought it was going to be, because you just like at times you're like, we're literally filming this in a desert and no one knows who we are. By the time he talks about his account when they're filming like the Great Pitted Carcoon, and for episode 6 they're filming in Arizona, which that's where Blue Harvest came about, because they had the whole crew, cast and crew. I think I told you this, and like on their vans and everything, they were wearing like Blue Harvest film or something, but it was disguising Star Wars, because anywhere you go, like people were always like trying to take pictures or get autographs and bother the cast and crew. So I thought that was pretty interesting how it turned from what everyone thought was going to be a bust to.
How much are those shirts?
I don't know. I'd actually love to see if you can get one.
An original Blue Harvest
We'll have,
shirt?
we'll have to look into that.
If you can get an original Blue Harvest shirt, I would pay a pretty penny for that. I'd probably pay it.
Well, one thing you want to watch out for is you were saying you want to get the figures for your original 12. There's a lot of reproductions out there, so I can send you some info on how to identify some of those that I've learned through some of my Facebook groups, like the Imperial Commissary. So there are no repro group, so anything that's sold there is original. And there's all sorts of ways. I forget. I think the originals float, and the copies will sink for a lot of the types of weapons and such. So there's this whole ecosystem of retro identification that's out there to make sure that you're really getting actual vintage stuff.
That's so interesting. And it's funny, because I know there's a big thing with like obviously autographs and stuff as well, to making sure you're not getting ripped off and getting a fake copy of like a picture that was like a reprint. That's what we're looking for. Or if it's just some knucklehead forged it in his basement. So it's kind of hard to believe someone would actually sit there and try to reproduce a figure.
Oh, you think stormtrooper gun might sell for $30? And it's like just a little bit of plastic and a mold, and they figure they can make a lot of money, but
Sell a bunch of
selling to
dollars.
unsuspecting people.
That's actually pretty accurate. So, well,
And when you
Sounds a lot
mentioned,
like what you do, Cody.
huh?
That sounds a lot like what you do.
What?
Make little figures like that and then sell
Oh my gosh.
you're banned from the Imperial Council.
Oh man.
But actually, now you just reminded me when we were talking about autographs. I couldn't remember the name of the company that did the autographs at Celebration. It's Official Picks.
Official Picks. Okay.
So they didn't pay you for your volunteer time, but they did give me like 10 autographed photos of various people, and I'll have to find that and see who it is. I don't think I had any of the main characters, but I'll have to look and see who's in there.
That'd be awesome. That'd be super cool. Yeah, I know. At the Gateway Comics, he has hundreds of autographs that even he bought. He bought off a collection from some store out in California, and they all come with their original documentation. It might have been that company. I definitely had heard of it before. It might have been because it was part of the tour. I mean, he just had so many, and then he also has a bunch of non-Star Wars pieces, of course. But I think his most valuable Star Wars piece was I think yeah. So I think one of the most unique pieces. I could get rid of it tomorrow, honestly, for the right price. But it's the 1996 R2D2 cooler. I think I might have told you this. It's like that.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And I might have also told you the piece about that Ed has, where it's the same cooler, but it's signed by all the original cast, and he has like the documentation for each one. Because I think what it was either someone he knew or someone he met in passing, or on many stores that he's owned across the country. That essentially had it either took it off people like to conventions like the one you're working, or I can't remember the full story behind it, but I mean it had Prowse, Mayhew, Mark Hamill, and had every single one, which I thought was absolutely phenomenal. And I can imagine the actual worth. He said he'd sell it to me for $1,500. So I mean that's honestly a pretty solid deal. Maybe just because like we were so engaged.
You probably got like Hamill's autograph and Carrie Fisher. They probably go for $500 each.
Exactly. I know if you try to buy, who was it I saw recently? James Earl Jones. His is pretty far up there. So I don't know. Maybe one of these days I can buy it off him because it's a really cool piece. I mean, it's really really cool, and he has it on display. He also has a. It's like I think it was screen used, but a speeder bike. It was like a prop though. It wasn't one that they actually sat on. It was like for a background or something. So that was pretty cool. He has that in his store as well. So yeah, you have to eventually come on up and check out the collection. I still need to get back in there. I haven't been back in there since I actually still have the pictures say that you sent me of the Star Trek line. I know he definitely would take them. So I'll have to get in there and see what maybe he can do.
Yeah, I got to get up there. And that actually reminds me of another question I had for you. It's like, I know you do a lot of traveling, and traveling is one of your passions, and Star Wars is one of your passions. So what are your plans for combining the two? You could be traveling around, finding people with collections, kind of like, Star Wars pickers.
That actually would be pretty cool, to be honest with you. So I've actually thought about it because I know obviously our channel's one of the big pieces that helped our channel get bigger through the years and just meeting more people and having fun doing it is travel. And then we've branched off and done like gym stuff and all sorts of random stuff. Well, recently the last year we done the podcast and met so many cool people like David Hall, who I know sent you his YouTube channel, the Lego Star Wars guy, and he was definitely kind of got the idea of it, and then came across you by buying your collection, which obviously is another coincidental right down the road in Chesterfield. So maybe one of these days I would like to do, like you said, like an American Pickers style collection thing, to where I would love to go to the El Rancho Obi-Wan out in California.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You have to do too. I've always wanted to go there.
I would love.
Actually, I have a photo of me with Steve Sansweet in Celebration 3, and so it's kind of cool to meet him. But I'd love to see Rancho Obi-Wan.
I would love to. I would love to go there. I think another thing that we've done through our travels, specifically, I don't know if you're a Breaking Bad fan by any
Yep.
chance. We
Yeah.
took a Breaking Bad tour. So
It
actually,
was a self tour.
it is a self tour. So instead of like paying like the $50 a person, that you can actually, which is kind of cool because you ride around in the exact Winnebago or whatever that's used in, well, maybe not the exact, like a replica, like just like it on the exterior that's used in the show. So I kind of looked up all the film locations ourselves, and we went to Walter White's house.
We got yelled at.
Yeah, we did. But now there's actually a gate around the house, which is pretty
The
annoying.
people who lived there must have not known that they were buying Walter White's house.
Because I mean, to a T, like everything there looks the same. Like they didn't like repaint it; it all looks the exact same. And
People throwing those burnt teddy bears into that pool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I know.
I think they actually had like a big problem with people throwing pizza on their roof.
yeah, apparently, I
Yeah.
think. So what happened was, is you remember that story where, and because we went in 2017 for the first time, and for the listeners out there, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Breaking Bad, if you're not a fan, and we go to the Walter White house first. It was early in the morning.
And we parked
And-
100, 200, yards away as like kind of a self or respect thing. You don't want to drive right up to someone's driveway and take pictures and all
Yeah.
that. So we stayed a little bit further away. But the people who lived there were just sitting in their garage,
And like lawn
Like-
chairs.
just yelling at people pretty much to stop looking at their home.
And then I remember we were taking our pictures and like taking it in, and some like knucklehead was like driving in, and like he was definitely a neighbor and like parked somewhere nearby, and he's like, "Oh, got some creepers again." Like said something kind of like
Yeah.
blatant, like, "Hey, you guys should like leave." But never actually something like to us. So I thought that was kind of weird, but it was still really cool to see it. I've actually gone back and seen it since then, which when I saw the gate, and I think it was empty, but there was a police car like 2 blocks down, like facing it. So I mean, I can imagine throwing pizza and teddy bears at it. So, but back in 2017 when we took the tour, we also went to Saul Goodman's the strip mall there where his office is. So we saw like the door, which has now been renovated to that like.
But it
sports
still
bar.
has a Saul Goodman's like print on the door.
It does, like the original
They
from
brought
the
it.
show.
They like put like the actual store's marketing above it and like bigger, but the Saul Goodman thing is like down as like a little homage to it.
Yep.
Nice.
We saw the car wash. I think we passed by, like, I think it's near the end of the show. There's like the not the dam, but it's like
The
for
wall
the wall. Yeah,
where like he has his luggage about to be picked up by the car.
that's what it is. Near the end of the show, and then I believe we in passing we also went near like one of the. There's like 2 different locations for the Los Pollos Hermanos. I think there's one shot specifically there's one that was for the exterior and one for the interior. I believe that's what I saw online. So it was pretty cool. So I thought about where this ties into Star Wars is maybe going eventually to some of the film locations. I've always loved to go to Tunisia. I have looked that up on YouTube a time or two, and I'm not mistaken. Like a lot of the like you can still find like certain tours that go out to the locations, which I know specifically
What was shot there?
Tatooine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Luke's homestead.
Luke's homestead.
Yeah, a lot of those buildings are still there.
Mm-hmm. And then I read in the C-3PO book the cantina was actually just someone's home, but it was so big that they used like an idea of it. So what it was is they didn't actually film it in his home, but they got the idea from this man's home, and like George Lucas like kind of saw it and used this idea of like what is like the bar, and they built it on like in Hollywood, California, and kind of reconstructed the interior of this man's home, if you will, from his like memory roughly, and put like the bar in there and everything. But the scene when they're like walking into the cantina, they did use the exterior of his home, and the door that's like either right near or that they're walking towards to go in. He still owns it and like has it, and he's had collectors from all over the world come and try to like pay him for it, and he won't do it. Which I think the reason why is, which talked about in the book, is people try to do that with other props and stuff that they left behind that they couldn't really ship back. But it's because they made a good bit of money. Like that small town in Tunisia made a good bit of money but other people would, like bandits would try and come and like steal them and kill people for their goods and riches and stuff. And apparently it was like 6 or 7 times worth like everything else. So I thought that was pretty interesting story. But specifically, I did look up recently that man still owns like that infamous door from episode 4.
That's great.
And people tried to purchase it all the time. So I don't know.
Well, you have to go to Guatemala too, where Yavin 4 Rebel Base was.
Yeah. I think there's like a tour you can take there too, like some sort of excursion. I think that'd be really cool. Guatemala there. I believe in Rogue One.
Yeah, where was that one shot at?
Rogue One, there is.
I'll go to that
right? Rogue One, there. It's the little cameo where C-3PO's in when they're taking off from that said base. That's in England. Then episode.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm. And the end of episode 7/8, like Luke Skywalker's like little Heidi Island. You can take a full tour and go on those islands in Ireland. It's off the coast on the west coast of Ireland. Man, I'm trying to remember where else there you can go. But
I think we should just start. We'll start with Rancho Obi-Wan.
Yeah, let's do that. It's a little bit easier and achievable. So
yeah,
what is that?
Maybe we'll go to Skywalker Ranch too.
Yeah, that too, Skywalker Ranch, and there's actually like a full-on museum in California as well. Shoot, I don't remember what it's called. But they're all these are in California. Okay. Skywalker Ranch is in California, right? That's the one I couldn't remember.
In Maris County, I think.
Yeah, I think he talks about that in one of the YouTube videos I saw of a rancho. Because there's tons of YouTube videos, and almost every video, that's an interesting thing. And I would love to go there. I mean, if you want to grow your YouTube channel, just go to El Rancho, because like every time people go there and are able to do a tour, he's super open to answering questions. Which you can go on YouTube right now, and a couple of those videos and like the breakdowns are really, really, really cool. Just to see like his passion, like what he's put into it, and he has his original figures and stuff. But I always wondered what he does for a living. Do you know what he does for a living? Like before all that?
You're talking about Steve Sansweet?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he did for a living, but he started out just a collector and just loved it. And he had such a good collection, and then people started sending him stuff from all over the world, and then they just made that museum.
I guess he just got lucky, I guess.
I think it's one of those being in the right place at the right time with the right stuff.
Yes, I most definitely agree. But everyone definitely does their part as a collector, and that man for sure has gets to carry the burden for all of us of being the number one collector. Because I can't think of anyone that would be above him. That's for certain.
Yeah, he's got to be the number one in the world.
So that would definitely be something I'd love to tie in. I've definitely got a lot of travel endeavors that we want to accomplish.
Is there any travel? Or is there any Star Wars things in Japan?
I don't know. That's our next big trip that we want to do is Japan for our own self, for leisure / really cool content for the channel. I don't know. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know either.
If there's something I could find in like some sort of like a little rinky-dink shop, I will buy it. I will for sure buy it. If I just see Japanese, writing on anything or like manuscript on literally any package, I'll be like, oh, that'd be so cool to have.
I'm sure they have.
Even if it's like a bubblegum wrapper. Or like
I'm sure they got tons of stuff.
Cody, I'm gonna blow your mind here, but when we go to Japan, there's gonna be things with Japanese writing on it.
I meant Star Wars related.
He's going to introduce Star Wars to Japan.
Exactly. I'll just bring my stuffed Grogu there and just like carry him around like, hey everyone, this is from Star Wars. Ever heard of it? I think it's probably the coolest thing ever. So we'll see. Definitely have to do something related to that. So
yeah. And then the next step is when are we getting Anthony Daniels on?
Oh gosh.
If I'm gonna have him on, it better be an in-person episode. It better be an in-person episode there, and we'll definitely have to do a whole panel interview. We'll get you back on. We'll have to get our buddy David Hall, and then our buddy Brian. I know we want to have on next. He's a huge Star Wars fan, so that'd be cool to maybe one day. I'm sure he's gonna really love this episode. No one knows that that we're doing this episode, or your background. I don't even get to tell my brothers. You're the only one that knows about like the 501st, and like as far as I know, like my brother's like, wow, that guy has a cool collection, because I told him, I sent him a picture of everything that I got, and they're like, wow, you're lucky, blah blah blah, but I never really got to tell him by the way, he's in the 501st, so they're gonna get a kick out of this episode. Which I did want to say, feel free to send it around to your 501st friends or old family and friends or whatever that are big into Star Wars, or just you love to share it with, because none of
Sure. Yeah. So Star Wars is all about sharing.
Exactly. Well, Joe, it's been an awesome episode. I know we've had a blast having you on. Hope you,
it's been great.
Awesome. Well, I like I said, this definitely won't be our last time having you on. We'll definitely have to have some sort of like Star Wars special episode, maybe with another buddy or two.
Mm-hmm.
I know this episode is going to open up a can of worms for people that I know that love Star Wars, like including my brothers, because they have no idea that you're part of 501st. It's gonna be pretty cool. And then I do want to obviously get you up here in Fredericksburg. We'll have to go to take you to the store, see what you can do with some of your collection, and then another side of things is when the 501st stuff comes up. I'd love to do like a video, or like or at least let alone just see like you guys in action. That'd be really cool.
That'd be really cool.
But maybe do like a little like video compilation, or I'd love to even be like y'all's photographer. I got obviously a couple cameras that me and DJ can just do like a whole
some drone footage.
Exactly, some cool like have little drone footage shots. Especially you get like all 50 together. That'd be some pretty cool stuff for promotion for you guys.
Yeah, we'll have to do something cool like that. I'll check the forums, see when some things are coming up.
Awesome. Well, Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure. So I hope we can do this again.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Awesome. Signing off.
Bye.